Hello, welcome to this edition of OpFi Deep Dive. Today we are going to check out what millions consider to be the best presentation Dave Ramsey has ever made. We're going to check it out and then deep dive into conversation about it after.
All right, sounds good.
So this is Dave Ramsey's most inspiring speech ever, right?
It is. This presentation is packed with motivation and financial wisdom and really a hefty dose of hope. So
Okay.
buckle up.
Buckle up.
In the 1940s, 1950s, radio was how America was entertained. Television was not widely distributed at that point. Families would gather around the drama, the series, like they gather around Netflix now. And so it was drama on the radio. One of the radio shows was a show in Chicago, and it was Sky King. Now, if you keep in mind, this is the 40s, airplanes were still a big deal. It was a cutting-edge technology to fly still. And Sky King was this guy with a great baritone voice. Of course, he was a radio voice. And he would fly in, whatever the drama was, and he was the guy that would save the day. And the voice behind Sky King was a guy named Earl Nightingale. And Earl pretty quickly realized there was no money in radio, and he bought an insurance business, a general agency. And every Monday morning, he would have a sales meeting and pump up his sales guys and send them out to sell insurance. And he was very, very successful at it, all the way up into the late 50s. And one of the things Earl loved more than motivational speaking or jacking up his sales guys and getting them ready to go out and sell insurance was he loved to fish. And Earl decided he was going on a fishing trip in Canada. Well, his sales manager came to him and he said, you understand that the 2 weeks that you're gone, sales are going to go down because when you get these guys wired up on Monday morning, they're ready to go attack the world, and they go out there and make sales without you here to do the pump up, the halftime speech for the football coach. They're not going to do their thing, man, and sales are going to go down. Well, Earl thought, well, that's not good, but I'm going fishing, so I got to figure this out. So he goes back to his old radio days and decides he's going to record a talk. And he goes into the studio and records a talk just for the 2-week vacation. And the way you did a recording in those days in a studio was not tape. It was on an acetone record, a real floppy, real thin looking record. Any of you old enough to remember getting a record on the back of your cereal box, that kind of a thing. There's a little thin, flimsy record. It was meant to play 3 or 4 times and 5 times and then not meant to work after that. It didn't have a long shelf life. It was a short recording. And he went in and he recorded a 33-minute talk. They played it, sales went up while he was gone. They played it the next week, sales went up again while he was gone. He came back. By the time he had gotten back, everyone who sold anything in the entire Chicago area was abuzz wanting a copy of this talk. He ended up recording the talk formally, pressing records, and selling the records. And as best we can determine in research that we've done in the broadcast world, this is one of the records that sold beginning in 1959. This is the first recorded talk, not music, but the first talk of any kind to sell 1 million copies. The talk was called The Strangest Secret. And in it, he talks about the strangest secret is simply that you become what you think about. Now, this is a biblical truth. In Proverbs, it says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, a man becomes what he thinks about all day long. It turns out that what we focus on, what we concentrate on, what we think about, we tend to gravitate towards, move towards, become that. And if it's good or bad, we're going to be pulled magnetically in the direction of the things we think about. You become what you think about is the strangest secret. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Henry Ford once said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Now, this was proven several years ago, and this is another old story that I just love, and it was proven in this instance. Now, any of you remember the book or the movie Unbroken about Louis Zamperini? He was a track star, and he goes into World War II in a Japanese concentration camp and finally gets out later. The story of his whole life is a wonderful story. Big old long book, Unbroken. The book's better than the movie usually is, right? So Louis ran in the Berlin Olympics with the Nazis doing this. Hitler is coming into power. And he was a miler. He was a kid from California. And in the Berlin Olympics, Louis ran the mile in 4 minutes and 21 seconds and just barely missed a medal. The miler that year was a little over 4 minutes. That was 1936. By 1954, no one had broken the 4-minute mile. No one. A guy did a 4 minute and 1 second, and it stood for 9 years. It was widely thought and taught that the human body, the physiological condition of the human body, it was impossible for anyone to train enough to go fast enough for the human body to cross a mile in under 4 minutes. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. You become what you think about. One doctor even prophesied that if someone actually did run a mile in under 4 minutes, that their heart would explode and they would die right there. Until 1954, Roger Bannister, famously, is the first human being, and that's a picture of him, to break the 4-minute mile, 3 minutes and 59 seconds. The record lasted 46 days. 22 people broke the 4-minute mile within the next 6 years. I've told this story and I love it, so much so that the watch that was used by the old guy sitting there in the trench coat as Bannister went across the line went up for sale on Sotheby's auction house in London. Well, apparently I've got too much money because I decided I needed that watch. What a great story and what a great thing to have in my safe for my kids to fight over after I die. So I go to bidding on this watch. I set myself the limit of $10,000. I was going to go no more than $10,000 to buy this world-class keepsake. I quit bidding at $38,000. I bought this one on eBay for $4, okay? But if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. The power of intentionality. I'm going to be intentional about my life. I'm going to be intentional about my spiritual walk. I'm going to be intentional about the dimensions and the compartments and the departments of my life. You know, no one accidentally wins. You don't interview the guy after the Super Bowl and the little reporter runs over to the athlete and goes, "How did you just win the World Series, the Super Bowl?" They never say, "I don't know, I just got off the bus." No, I've been training since I was 6 years old. It's an intentional act to win. The power of intentionality goes with the power of belief and what we in our Christian walk call faith, what we believe. And we just did 2 years ago at Ramsey the largest study of millionaires ever done in North America. We studied 10,167 millionaires, in-depth, airtight research because we knew people wouldn't like the results. Because we kind of knew some of the things we were going to find. And we knew that some people wouldn't like it. So we were really careful. We had outside research firm help us with the details and the control groups and the processes. If you know anything about research, it's a very detailed thing to do it properly and not get confirmation bias and these kinds of things in there. Detailed thing. Here's the interesting thing. If you get somebody to say something, if like 60% of the people say something in a group like that, that's called statistically significant, right? Over half of them say this. 97% of the millionaires that we talk to, when we ask them, can you become a millionaire today? And when you first started, did you believe you could become a millionaire? 97% said yes. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. When we interviewed the general public that weren't millionaires, do you think you can become a millionaire? 69%. Still a lot, but significantly less than 97% said that they thought they could. I wasn't planning to write another book this year for sure, but I got aggravated by two things that kept popping up in my face. One is I've been teaching these biblical principles to get out of debt, save money so that you can become wealthy, so you can be outrageously generous. Managing money for God, God's ways, and for your family is part of God's ways, right? And I've been teaching people this stuff for 30 years. And we call it the baby steps. You walk up the baby steps, you get out of debt, build your emergency fund, start your retirement, your kids' college, pay off your house, your baby step 7. Woohoo, we're free. We did it, okay? And we walk them through the baby steps. And I kept running into people all over America, wherever I went. And they would walk up and they go, "Hey, Dave, I've been doing your stuff for like a long time. Like I'm old. Like I've been doing this 25 years. I've been listening to you. And I'm a baby steps millionaire. And I did it. The stuff you teach, I did it and it worked. And I'm a millionaire." And I kept running into these people everywhere. And then I was running into, I do a lot of media stuff. And God help me, I actually sometimes look at social media. And I kept seeing out there the hope stealers. Y'all ever seen the hope stealers? The people that will steal your hope, that tell you it can't be done. They're the ones that, you know, Eeyore is their spirit animal. "Oh, it's bad. America's over. You're never going to be able to make it. It's bad. The little man can't get ahead." And I was running into these hope stealers everywhere, and they're telling me no one can do it, and sophisticated economists who were hope stealers, and people in the media that were hope stealers, and I'm talking to baby step millionaires who go, "Dave, I did it." Hope stealers are out there. The first thing they tell you is this: all the rich people have all the money, and the only way you get rich is to inherit your money. You heard that one, say yes. Well, here's the thing. That's a lie. No, I mean, I've got data, facts. Not your broke brother-in-law with an opinion. Facts. Okay? When we study these millionaires, 10,000 of them, 79% received precisely 0 as an inheritance. That's 8 out of 10. 5%, when they did get an inheritance, it was a little one, like $4,000 or $5,000, which does not make you a millionaire in case you didn't know the math. Another 5% received a big inheritance, like a couple of $100,000 after they were already millionaires. So that didn't make them a millionaire. 5 and 5 and 79 is 89. That's 9 out of 10 millionaires in America today did it themselves, first generation rich with the blessings of God. Your whiny little friend says, but it's just not fair out there. It's not fair out there. The fair's where the tilt-a-whirl is in the prize pig. It's not fair. Oh, it ought to be equal. Equal is fair. Not in the Bible. And by the way, equal's not fair. If you work 100 hours a week and the guy works 10 hours a week, you should get paid more. I got a face for radio. I got friends who are pretty and they're like on TV and stuff. And they make more money because they talk to more people than I talk to. That's not fair. I'm in Nashville. I've got all these music friends. I can't play. I'm in talk radio for a reason. I got all these music friends and they sell 10 million albums. I've never even seen an album except one I put on the record. It's not fair that they make more money at albums than I make. Of course it is. They serve more people. They help more people with joy than I help with that. If I sell 10 books and help 10 people get out of debt, I should make one set of money. That's fair. But if I sell 10 million, I should make another set of money. That's fair. Fair is not equal because effort, talent, education, bothering to show up is not equal. So don't let the whiners tell you, well, the system's rigged. So I got to meet Condoleezza Rice. This woman is incredible. We were doing a leadership event. She came in to speak with us. She's unbelievably smart. Her purse is smarter than I am. And the woman, competition ice skater, world-class concert pianist, second woman ever to be Secretary of State, first black woman ever to be Secretary of State, provost of Sanford, grew up in a lower middle class family in extremely racist situation in Birmingham, Alabama. In those days, they called it Bombingham because that's when all the bombing was happening with the racism. But she wasn't defined by that. She didn't say the system's rigged. Is racism real? Oh, yes, racism is real. Is sexism real? Oh, yes, it's real. We don't all have the same starting point from where we got to go. We don't all have the same starting point. And that's not fair, it just is. But Condoleezza said her parents, what they taught her was that it doesn't matter where you come from, all that matters is where you're going to. I started a little further back. I'm from Antioch, Tennessee. I'm not from one of those cool families. I'm just a redneck hillbilly, so I started a little further back. Some people started further back than that, and they passed me. Did you know every single demographic, every single race we found in the study had become millionaires? Someone chose to go from where they started to believe, I'm going to be intentional. If you think you can, if you think you can't, you become what you think about. I'm going to aim at this. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, and I'm going to go do it. And then there are hope stealers among my brothers and sisters in Christ. The ones that are oversaved, you know them. Christians shouldn't be wealthy. As a matter of fact, the Bible condemns the rich to hell. Have any of you heard this? Have you ever even thought it? I used to think it because I kind of grew up in an area that was all Christian. I'm in Nashville. There's more Baptists there than people. And yet the scripture actually says this, and you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the power to get wealth. The Bible does not say money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. Well, Dave, you know, Jesus said a camel can't get through the eye of a needle, so a rich man can't get into heaven. One of my pastor buddies says, don't let the world teach you theology. And I'll help you with that. For goodness sakes, don't let Twitter teach you doctrine. The most quoted scripture by the angry, unbeliever, Christian hater, don't you know that the rich aren't going to heaven because a camel can't get through the eye of a needle? All you gotta do is just finish reading the context. And Jesus goes on down because the disciples were amazed. They said, well, who then can be saved? And he says, no one gets to the Father except through the Son. Let me just be mean to you. Are you ready to be mean? Because it's a spiritual gift, okay? So let me just be mean to you. If you believe with your toxic political beliefs, or you believe with your toxic upbringing in Christianity that rich people aren't going to heaven because of that scripture, let me help you with that. That's what theologians call heresy. And let me help you with heresy. Heresy is when what you're saying is prostitutes can go to heaven if they ask Jesus for forgiveness. Drug dealers can go to heaven if they ask Jesus for forgiveness. Murderers go to heaven if they ask Jesus for forgiveness, but not those rich people. Jesus' blood is not strong enough at the cross for those rich people. That's called heresy, technically speaking. So don't practice in heresy on Twitter, okay? It's bad for you. There's a lot of stuff on Twitter that's bad for you. So just helping you with this. Well, the evil 1%, they have all the money. They shouldn't have all the money. Oh, God, here we go. Okay, I'm a math guy. So here's the thing. If you make $39,000 a year, household income, You are in the top 1% of income earners in the world. You are officially going to hell. Well, this is how absurd this line of critical thinking is when you take your religion and you make it toxic to justify your victimization. Don't do it. I'm going to be intentional about winning the Super Bowl. I might have a harder start. It might not have been good when I was growing up. People might be mean to me because of reasons they shouldn't be mean to me, but it doesn't matter. I'm still going to go win the Super Bowl. I'm still not going to quit. The Bible teaches cause and effect. We reap what we sow. If you plant corn, you will water it, put fertilizer around it if you're a farmer, hoe around it, keep the weeds out, and then you will get corn if God chooses to send the sun and the rain. Now, St. Ambrose said we have to work like it all depends on us and pray like it all depends on God. The Bible is a constant dance between our faith in God and His provision and our faithfulness getting off your tail end and doing the work. So if you want some corn, you should plant corn. Aggravating Christians pray over mud holes that got no corn in them and can't figure out where the corn is when they have planted no corn. That's aggravating because it makes Christians look stupid. Corn come forth. It's not going to. You're supposed to reap what you sow. Sow the corn will come. Lord, I pray for money. Try saving some. I'm joking around a little bit, but we've all heard this stuff, and somehow we have to push back about it in our culture. I do believe God is a God of provision. He's a God of grace. I've walked in so much grace, and among all the dumb things I've done in my life, He's been so unbelievably good to me. It makes me cry every time I think about it. And I'm not in any way dissing that. I'm not in any way taking credit for success. But you have to work. And those that don't work, Paul said they don't eat. And somehow we get these things all twisted up and somehow spiritualize our inactivity or the fact that we're paralyzed and we're overwhelmed and we're scared and we don't know what to do. And instead of plowing through that and busting through that and saying, someone take my hand and help me out of this hole, and your brothers and sisters come alongside you, lift you out, give you a shot at something, the community comes around you and loves you well. All these things are scripture, and they all come together to cause us to be able to cause these things to happen in our lives because we learn to plant new and better things into our life. And I have a thing I call the displacement theory. I learned it from my wife. My wife is kind of like Pastor. She's kind of a health nut, and like she's in perfect shape. She has zero body fat, which is simultaneously wonderful because she's my wife, but look at me, it's also shaming, okay? So she goes and walks her 6 miles or 28 miles or whatever she does in the morning and works out 4.5 hours or whatever the thing she does. And then she comes in and puts stuff in a blender that humans should not ingest and thinks it's fun. And when she pours it into a glass, it looks like nuclear waste. And it's good for you. Ugh. And then she's got this little nuclear waste mustache and says, do you want some? And I'm like, no. And she finishes drinking that nuclear waste and sets the glass in the sink, turns on the hot water, and the hot water goes into the junk. And the clean water, as it runs, begins to displace the trash. And if you let that glass, and you've done it before, that pan sit in the sink and just let the hot water run on it, it will boil the stuff out. And in a few minutes, the clean has displaced the filth. You put good stuff in, you will have good stuff in. And it will push the trash from the past out. It will push the past out. People from my neighborhood, I don't care about your neighborhood, put some clean in. People that grew up like, I don't care, put some clean in. People that don't have a chance to start it like, shut up, put some clean in. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. You can do this. It's called hope. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. Be not conformed to this world. Don't be like them, but be transformed. How? Displacement. The renewing of your mind. New things coming in. And it creates a new you. Whole new way of looking at things. Sharon and I have been married almost 40 years. I'm really glad. And she's really glad she ain't married to the guy she married. He's not perfect, but he's a whole lot better than that idiot she married 40 years ago. Displacement. I'm getting better. I'm getting better. Give me 40 more. I'll probably get it down. So what God wants for you is what I want for you. He wants you to get on a budget because Jesus said, don't build a tower without first counting the cost, lest you get halfway up and you're unable to finish. And all who see you begin to mock you and say, this man began to build and was unable to finish. You get on a budget so that you can live on less than you make because a foolish man devours all he has. You live on less than you make so you can get out of debt because the rich rules over the poor and the borrower is slave to the lender. You get out of debt so you've got money to save for an emergency because in the house of the wise are stores of choice food and oil. You feel in the displacement yet. You take the savings that you begin to build up, that emergency fund, you're ready for a rainy day, and then, of course, then you're ready to build some wealth, and no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but it yields a harvest of righteousness. You can become a baby steps millionaire, and as you become wealthy, you can change your family tree because a godly man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And then as you do that, you become outrageously generous because God loves a cheerful giver. By the way, that's the end of the game. And that's the beginning of the game. Outrageous generosity. The rest of the stuff in the middle is just how we get it done. I don't go to the supermarket very much. My wife, bless her heart, she does that most of the time. But when I do go, I'm kind of an efficiency expert. It's kind of a NASCAR pit stop for me. Closest parking spot. Once I get my stuff, I'm scanning the lines. Have you ever done this? Okay, that line's a little longer, but that one checking out seemed like she's got her stuff going. I'm gonna get a little longer line. We're gonna get through there because I'm picking the fastest line to get in and out. The whole game is in and out quick. Y'all with me? Anybody do this but me? So I go in there the other day, and I love generous people. Generous people make us smile. Generous people make our eyes leak, don't they? And I go in there and I pick out the line, and there's this woman in the line, and she's got 2 kids who were everywhere, over everything. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm old school, bothering Papa Dave here. And then she's got these groceries, and she hands the guy her card, and it's rejected. Well, I hate to admit it, I was not looking compassionately upon this woman at first. I'm standing about 3 back. And now when the card comes out, now that's the business I'm in, right? Helping people that the card's rejected. And then I start looking at the kids a little more careful, and their clothes aren't very good. And then I look at her, and the windows are the eyes to the soul. The eyes are the windows to the soul, I'm sorry. And she's not having a good week. She's not having a good year. You can see the pain. You ever done that? You look at somebody, you see it stripping off of them? And then she hands him another card, and the card is rejected. And this whole thing is going down fast. Now, I'd like to tell you that I was the generous one, but I was slow on the trigger because it took me a minute to recover from my initial self-righteousness. But standing the guy right behind her was Superman. Now, I didn't realize it was Superman because he was dressed like a Hispanic construction worker with mud on his boots. But suddenly, Clark Kent comes out, and he reaches up and pays for her groceries. She starts crying. Register lady starts crying. I start crying. I'm not even involved. And she's trying to say, no, 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 no. He can't understand anything. He speaks only Spanish, but he does speak card denied. He does speak having a bad year. $300 goes up and he pays for her groceries. This is why we do what we do, because you won't be that guy. Generous people make our eyes leak. Generous people make us smile because we get to see God show up in the line at the grocery store. Put yourself in a position to be Him for the rest of your life. And try not to be self-righteous like me and beat Him to the punch. Put yourself in a position to be outrageously generous. And then if somebody that's crazy is drinking haterade because you became wealthy and you're incredibly generous, just tell them to have another serve. It's all good. Drink your haterade. Me and God, we're walking in generosity. He's letting me do this. It's the privilege of my entire life to be able to help others with money that He allowed me to manage. You can do it. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If you think you can, or you think you can't, that's faith or the lack of it. You'll be right either way. Decide. You become what you think about.
Welcome back. It is time for the deep dive of the segment we just checked out. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not religious myself.
Right.
But the cool thing is
Yeah.
that while this whole speech is framed within a Christian context,
Okay.
the underlying principles, they really resonate with everyone.
I think that's right.
It's all about the power of belief and intentionality and how those impact your actions
Okay.
and ultimately your outcomes.
That's what's so compelling about this topic.
Exactly.
It transcends specific belief systems
Right.
and taps into a universal human experience, the power of our minds to shape our reality.
It reminds me of a time when I was going through a rough patch
Yeah.
and I let negative thoughts completely take over.
Yeah.
And honestly, it felt like everything just spiraled downwards from there.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a wake-up call.
Yeah.
It really showed me how much our mindset matters.
I think it's often in those challenging moments that we start to see the direct connection between our thoughts and our experiences.
For sure.
It can be a powerful realization,
All of you.
that a difficult one.
So are you ready to explore how, as a man thinketh, so is he?
Let's dive in.
All right, let's start with a concept that lays the groundwork for this entire conversation.
Okay.
The strangest secret.
Ah, yes.
Have you heard of it?
Earl Nightingale's iconic recording. It's fascinating how such a simple message to become what you think about had such a profound impact. It became the first spoken word recording to sell 1 million copies.
1 million copies.
Which speaks volumes about its resonance.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And, this idea wasn't exactly brand new, right?
No, it wasn't.
Didn't ancient wisdom kind of touch on this too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Where this concept has roots in ancient wisdom traditions.
Okay. The book of Proverbs, for instance, states, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he."
Wow.
Even Ralph Waldo Emerson, the American philosopher and poet,
Right.
echoed this sentiment, saying, "A man becomes what he thinks about all day long."
So we've got ancient wisdom, a groundbreaking recording, and a celebrated philosopher, all pointing toward the same powerful idea that our thoughts shape our reality.
Precisely.
That's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
But do we have any real-life examples of this in action?
Nah.
Something to really bring this idea home.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Think about Roger Bannister.
Oh, yeah.
In 1954,
I remember learning about that.
he achieved what was considered physically impossible at the time.
Yeah, it was a huge deal.
He broke the 4-minute mile.
But what does running have to do with belief?
Well, for years, athletes, coaches, even doctors believed the human body couldn't run a mile in under 4 minutes.
Right.
It was a self-imposed limit, a mental barrier.
Then Bannister comes along, shatters that barrier, and boom.
That's
He didn't just break a record. He shattered a belief.
So what happened after that?
Well,
Did other runners just give up knowing they couldn't beat him?
quite the opposite. Within just a few years, 22 other runners also broke the 4-minute mile.
Wow.
Once people saw it was possible, the floodgates opened.
That's amazing.
That right there is the power of belief in action.
So it's like a chain reaction.
Yeah, it created a ripple effect, inspiring others to achieve what was previously thought unattainable.
That's such a clear example of how our beliefs can actually limit us. If we believe something's impossible, we probably won't even try, right?
Exactly.
But seeing something is possible opens up a whole new realm of possibilities.
For everyone.
For everyone. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So how does this tie into Dave Ramsey's work?
Okay.
I know he's all about achieving financial success.
Ramsey's a huge advocate for the power of belief, especially when it comes to building wealth.
Okay.
He actually conducted the largest study of millionaires in North America, surveying over 10,000 of them.
Wait, 10,000 millionaires?
Yes.
That's insane.
It's a lot of millionaires.
What did he learn from all those folks?
One of the most striking findings. 97% of those millionaires believed they could become millionaires
Okay.
before they actually did.
So basically they believed it into existence.
Essentially, yes.
That's pretty powerful.
It is.
But I'm curious, how did that compare to the average person?
When they surveyed the general public, they found that 69%
Okay.
believed they could become millionaires.
So that's still a majority, right?
That's still a majority.
But there's a pretty significant gap there
There is.
between those that actually did it and those that just believed they could.
Yeah.
Believing in your ability to achieve financial success seems like a crucial first step.
It is.
But I'm sure some people out there are like, come on, it can't be that simple, right?
Of course.
I know.
There are always doubters, those who try to steal our hope.
Hope stealers.
Ramsey calls them hope stealers.
I've definitely met a few of those.
You probably have.
What kind of arguments do they use?
One common myth
Okay.
is that all rich people inherited their wealth.
Right.
But Ramsey's study debunked that
Oh, Willie.
79% of the millionaires in his study got absolutely no inheritance.
So 8 out of 10 built their wealth from scratch.
Pretty much.
That definitely challenges the stereotype.
It does.
What other hope stealer arguments did Ramsey tackle?
And another common one
Yeah.
is the idea that the system is rigged
Oh, yeah.
and that it's impossible for the average person to get ahead.
That's a sentiment you hear everywhere these days.
It is.
How did Ramsey respond to that one?
He shared the incredible story of Condoleezza Rice.
Okay.
She came from a modest family in Birmingham, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
During a time when racism was rampant,
Right.
she faced immense societal barriers. Yet she rose above them to become the second woman and the first Black woman to serve as the United States Secretary of State.
Wow.
She was also an accomplished pianist
Oh, wow.
and a competitive ice skater.
That's incredible.
Talk about a powerhouse.
Condoleezza Rice's story is truly inspiring.
It is.
It shows that while the starting point might not be equal for everyone, success is still achievable.
It is.
With hard work, determination, and a belief in yourself.
Exactly.
It's about focusing on where you're going, not dwelling on where you started.
That's right.
So we've covered the inheritance myth and the rig system argument.
We have.
Are there any other hope stealers Ramsey tackles?
There's one more.
Okay.
That's especially interesting because it comes from within the Christian community.
All right.
The idea that Christians shouldn't be wealthy.
That's a curious one.
It is.
Where does that belief come from?
It often stems from misinterpretations of certain scriptures, like the one that says, "It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God."
I've heard that one used to discourage the pursuit of wealth, but the context always seemed a bit unclear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Taking scripture out of context can be misleading and even harmful.
Okay.
He points out that the Bible also states, "And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the power to get wealth."
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the Bible doesn't condemn wealth itself,
I don't think so.
but rather the love of money.
That's the distinction.
Right.
Ramsey highlights the importance of viewing wealth as a tool that can be used for good, for generosity, and for making a positive impact on the world.
Yeah, it's about aligning your financial goals with your values and using your resources to help others.
Precisely.
So we've debunked some common myths that can hold people back from believing in their ability to achieve financial success.
We have.
But what are some practical steps people can take to cultivate a more positive and empowering mindset?
Ramsey uses a great analogy to illustrate this.
Okay.
The displacement theory.
Intriguing. What's the displacement theory all about?
He compares it to what happens when you leave a dirty dish in the sink and turn on the hot water.
So
As the clean water flows in,
Right.
it gradually displaces the dirt and grime,
Okay, I can picture that.
eventually leaving the dish clean.
But how does duty dishwater relate to our thoughts and beliefs?
Ramsey suggests that our minds are like that sink.
Okay.
When we consistently fill them with positive, constructive, and faith-filled thoughts,
Okay.
those thoughts begin to crowd out the negativity and self-doubt and limiting beliefs that may have been holding us back.
So it's about actively choosing what we feed our minds.
Exactly.
Just like we choose what foods we nourish our bodies with.
And just like eating a healthy diet leads to a healthier body,
Right.
feeding our minds with empowering thoughts can lead to a healthier, more abundant life.
That's powerful.
It is.
But it's not just about thinking positive thoughts, right?
No, it's not.
Action has to be part of the equation too.
Absolutely. As Ramsey says, you have to work.
Right.
Faith and belief are essential, but they need to be coupled with effort and action.
Right.
It's about having both the right mindset and the willingness to put in the work
Yeah.
to achieve your goals.
That's like a dynamic duo.
Yeah,
Belief fuels action, and action reinforces belief.
precisely. They work together to create a powerful cycle of growth and achievement.
That's awesome.
And this applies to all areas of life,
Right.
not just finances.
I love that. So it's not just about getting rich.
Right.
It's about living a richer life
Exactly.
in all aspects.
And that brings us to another important point that Ramsey emphasizes.
Okay.
The power of generosity.
All right. Let's talk about generosity.
Okay.
I have a feeling this is going to get heartwarming.
Get ready for a great story.
Okay.
I'm all ears.
Ramsey shared an anecdote about a time he was at the grocery store.
And witnessed a powerful act of kindness.
Okay.
He was waiting in line, and there was this woman in front of him who was clearly having a rough day.
Oh.
She had 2 kids with her running around. Her groceries weren't anything fancy.
Right.
And when she tried to pay with her card, it was declined.
Oh, no, that's so stressful.
I know.
I can only imagine how embarrassed she must have felt.
Right.
Yeah.
And as Ramsey watched this unfold,
Yeah.
he noticed the man standing behind the woman.
Okay.
This man was a construction worker covered in mud from a hard day's work.
So not someone you'd typically associate with
Yeah,
having a lot of extra cash to spare.
exactly.
Right.
But when the woman's card was declined a second time,
Oh, man.
this man, without hesitation, stepped up and paid for her groceries.
Wow, that gives me chills.
What an incredible act of generosity.
That's the kind of story that restores your faith in humanity.
It really does.
Yeah.
And Ramsey uses this story to illustrate a crucial point.
Okay.
The ultimate goal of wealth or financial abundance is to be in a position to help others.
It's not just about accumulating money for yourself.
No.
but about using it to make a difference in the lives of others.
Exactly. That act of generosity, that willingness to step up and help someone in need is what truly makes a life rich.
I love that generosity isn't just about the money, it's about the heart behind it.
Precisely. And the impact of generosity extends far beyond the recipient.
Yeah.
It touches the giver, the witness, and ripples outwards, creating a more compassionate and interconnected world.
This conversation has been so insightful.
It has.
We've covered so much ground already.
We have a lot more to discuss.
I'm feeling really inspired. But I know we have even more to explore.
We do.
Including some key takeaways from Ramsey's speech.
Right.
So let's pause here.
Okay.
And pick up the conversation in part 2.
Sounds good.
Where we'll dive even deeper into practical steps we can take to cultivate a belief that empowers us to achieve our goals and live a more fulfilling life.
We'll do that.
Okay, so we just heard that amazing story about generosity at the grocery store.
Yeah.
It really highlighted how true abundance goes beyond just money.
It certainly does. It's about having the resources and the heart to make a positive impact.
For sure.
Now, let's shift gears a bit and explore some practical steps Dave Ramsey suggests for cultivating a belief. It empowers us.
Yes. Let's get into the nitty-gritty.
All right.
What's the first step towards building that kind of belief?
Ramsey emphasizes personal responsibility.
Okay.
He's a big believer in taking ownership of your finances and making intentional choices aligned with your goals.
That seems like a logical starting point.
Yeah.
It's easy to blame external factors or feel stuck in the system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ramsey encourages us to shift that perspective and focus on what we can control.
Okay.
Our thoughts, actions, and choices. He has a great saying,
That's that.
you have to work it.
It's not about waiting for a miracle or someone else to fix things for you.
No.
It's about putting in the effort and taking consistent action toward your goals.
Exactly. And he also reminds us that asking for help is okay.
Oh, yeah.
Seeking financial advice, joining a supportive community,
Yeah.
or leaning on loved ones for encouragement.
Right.
Having a support system makes a huge difference.
I appreciate that he stresses the importance of community.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have to go it alone.
Right.
It's about taking responsibility, but also acknowledging we're stronger together.
Absolutely. Another key point is having a plan.
Okay.
He's known for his baby steps approach to financial management.
Oh, yeah.
A clear roadmap for getting out of debt, saving for emergencies, and building wealth.
Those baby steps seem like a really practical way to turn belief into action.
Precisely. A plan keeps you focused, motivated, and organized, which is crucial when working towards big goals. It eliminates the guesswork and gives you concrete steps to move closer to your desired outcome every day.
So we've talked about taking responsibility, putting in the work, seeking support, and having a plan.
We have.
What else does Ramsey recommend for building that empowering belief?
He talks about feeding our minds with positive and constructive content.
Okay.
He encourages us to be mindful of the information we consume, the people we surround ourselves with, and the conversations we engage in.
It's about being intentional with the influences in our lives.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's like expecting to be healthy while eating junk food all day.
That's true.
You can't feed your mind negativity
Right.
and expect a positive outlook. It just doesn't work.
I like that analogy. It's very clear.
Yeah.
So what kind of content does Ramsey suggest we focus on?
He recommends things like inspirational books,
Okay.
motivational podcasts, personal growth seminars, and surrounding ourselves with positive, supportive, goal-oriented people.
Yeah.
He also emphasizes the importance of faith and spirituality. Okay.
For a sense of purpose and strength during tough times.
So essentially, it's about creating a mental environment that supports growth.
Exactly.
And nourishes our belief in ourselves and our ability to achieve our goals.
And it's not about ignoring negativity or pretending challenges don't exist.
Right.
It's about focusing on the positive, the possible, and the solutions instead of dwelling on problems.
Yeah. As they say, where attention goes, energy flows.
Precisely, our minds are powerful tools.
Yeah.
And the more we focus on what we want, the more likely we are to attract it into our lives.
It all ties together.
It does.
I can see how all these pieces fit together, but I'm sure some listeners might be thinking, what if I've tried all this and I'm still struggling?
It's a valid question.
Yeah.
Ramsey acknowledges that cultivating empowering beliefs isn't always easy.
Right.
It takes time, effort, and consistency.
Yeah.
He encourages patience, celebrating small wins, and remembering that setbacks are part of the journey.
Right.
It's not always a straight path to success.
Yeah.
It's like learning a new skill. You wouldn't expect to become a concert pianist overnight.
You wouldn't.
It takes practice, dedication, and embracing the learning process.
Exactly.
With all its ups and downs.
And just like learning any skill, there will be times of frustration, discouragement, or feeling stuck.
Right.
Those are the moments to remind yourself of your goals.
Yeah.
Lean on your support system and recommit to the practices that nurture your belief.
It's about trusting the process and believing that with consistent effort, you can create the life you desire.
Precisely. That brings us to another crucial point.
Okay.
The power of gratitude.
All right.
Ramsey encourages cultivating an attitude of gratitude, appreciating the good things in life, both big and small. He believes gratitude is a powerful antidote to negativity and shifts our perspective from scarcity to abundance.
It makes sense when we focus on what we're grateful for. It's harder to get caught up in what we lack.
Exactly.
It's a simple but profound shift in perspective.
Absolutely. And gratitude isn't just about feeling good. Studies have shown that practicing gratitude rewires our brains, making us more optimistic, resilient, and better equipped to handle challenges.
So gratitude is more than a feel-good emotion. It's a powerful tool for personal growth and transformation.
Exactly. The best part is it's accessible to everyone, regardless of their circumstances.
Right.
We can choose to be grateful for our health, relationships, talents, nature's beauty, or even just being alive.
That's beautiful.
It is.
It's such a simple yet powerful practice that can ripple outward into all areas of our lives.
Exactly. It's a beautiful reminder that we already have so much to be thankful for.
This conversation has been incredibly insightful and enriching.
It has.
I feel inspired and ready to put these ideas into action.
That's great.
But before we wrap up this section,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your final thoughts on the power of belief.
Okay.
And how we can harness it for a more fulfilling life.
What fascinates me most is how belief acts as a catalyst for change. It ignites our motivation, fuels our actions, and ultimately shapes our reality. We may not always control our circumstances,
Right.
but we do control our thoughts, beliefs, and responses to those circumstances.
So it's about taking ownership of our inner world
Exactly.
and recognizing that our beliefs can create the outer world we desire.
And the most important thing is that belief isn't fixed. It's something we can cultivate, nurture, and strengthen over time. Like a muscle, the more we exercise our belief, the stronger it becomes.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It's about actively engaging with our beliefs, challenging limiting thoughts, and consistently feeding our minds with empowering messages.
Precisely. And as we do that, we open ourselves to endless possibilities.
I love that.
We become more resilient, resourceful, and courageous in pursuing our dreams.
This has been such a powerful reminder that our beliefs truly shape our reality.
It is a powerful concept.
But we have more to uncover.
Right. We do. Let's take a moment to gather our thoughts and come back for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore even more ways to harness the power of belief.
I'm excited to continue this conversation. We'll be right back after a short pause. Welcome back to the deep dive.
It's great to be back.
We've been exploring the incredible power of belief.
Yeah.
How it can shape our lives, inspired by this speech by Dave Ramsey.
It's been a fascinating journey, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We've debunked some common myths that hold people back, explored practical strategies for cultivating a more empowering mindset, and even touched on the heartwarming impact of generosity.
It's been amazing. And before we wrap up completely,
I
wanted to circle back to something Ramsey said that really struck a chord with me. He talked about the importance of not just believing we can achieve something, but believing it with intentionality.
That's a powerful distinction.
Right.
It's not about passively hoping for things to happen. It's about actively aligning our thoughts, actions, and beliefs with our desired outcomes.
He used the analogy of winning the Super Bowl. You don't just accidentally end up on that field holding the trophy.
You certainly don't.
Right.
It takes years of dedicated training, strategic planning, unwavering focus, and unshakable belief in yourself and the team. And that same principle applies to achieving any goal, whether it's financial success, personal growth, or even mastering a new skill.
Right. So it's about being intentional with our energy and focus.
And as we've discussed, our beliefs play a huge role in shaping that direction.
Absolutely. Our beliefs act as a compass,
Yeah.
guiding our decisions, influencing our actions, and ultimately shaping our reality.
As we wrap up this deep dive,
Yep.
what are some key takeaways our listeners can walk away with?
What are some practical steps they can take to harness the power of belief in their own lives?
Here's what I find fascinating.
Okay.
Belief is contagious.
Really?
When we surround ourselves with people who believe in us,
Yeah.
support our dreams, and model positive thinking and action, it strengthens our own belief. Choose your company wisely.
It's like that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
That's right.
Our environment really does influence us.
It does. And remember, belief isn't about blind optimism.
Right.
Or ignoring challenges. It's about acknowledging obstacles, but choosing to focus on solutions, possibilities, and our own ability to overcome adversity.
It's about having faith in ourselves, even when things get tough.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to challenge your own limiting beliefs.
Oh, that's a good point. How do we do that?
Ask yourself, is this belief serving me?
Okay.
Is it helping me move closer to my goals, or is it holding me back?
Sometimes we need to give ourselves permission to dream bigger,
Yeah.
to believe in a more expansive version of ourselves and our future.
Precisely. And lastly, remember that cultivating a belief that empowers you is an ongoing journey.
Okay.
It's not a one-time event.
Right.
It's a daily practice. Be patient with yourself.
Okay.
Celebrate small victories and never give up on your dreams.
This deep dive has really gotten me thinking about the messages I'm feeding my own mind. Are they empowering me or holding me back?
That's a great question.
Something we all need to consider.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of this topic.
Well,
It invites us to become more aware of our thoughts, more intentional about our beliefs, and ultimately more empowered to create the life we desire.
so well said on that note. We'll wrap up this deep dive into the power of belief.
Sounds good.
Until next time, keep diving deep, and remember, you become what you think about.